Welcome back to KTN Prime. Thanks for staying with us. We now want to have the studio conversation. 3 legislators are already in the building, 1 from the Senate, 2 from the National Assembly. I will get to deliberate the latest, including this Beyond Vision 2030. Because at the end of the day, these very legislators will play a part in ensuring that it is secured within the law in order to avoid adulteration here or there by successive regimes. And that's one of the issues we'll be canvassing, including the politics in between, because it's been a politically heavy week. Allow me to introduce them. I'm joined by Dr. Danson Mungatana, the Senator of Tana River County. Daktari, karibu sana. It's been a while.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
Tana River kukuaje?
Kuko sawa, tunashukuru Mungu.
Asante sana. Thanks for your time. Equally joined by Onesmus Ngogoyo, who's a Member of Parliament for Kajiado North. Mehesh, karibu sana. How are you doing, sir?
Well, thank you for having me.
Kajiado kuko sawa?
Very good, a bit dry, but we're good.
We saw the DCP party in Umasaini yesterday.
We are growing in leaps and bounds.
How many defected to your party?
10 MCS.
10 MCAs.
5 on ODM, 3 on UDA, and 2 on Jubilee Party.
So you're scattering none and gathering all.
Yeah, that's the policy.
Okay, Asante, we'll get to converse that in a few. Equally joined by the Member of Parliament for Matuga constituency, Kasim Tandaza. Karibu sana.
Asante na pia kongole kwa hii fursa.
Asante. Watu wa Matuga wako aje?
Watu wa Matuga wako sawa, kama mimi mwenyewe mbunge wao ambao naitwa sawa. Na unajua sisi tuko 2 term.
Sawa. Tutaongea mambo ya 1 term, 2 term in a few. But unajua wanasema, they say great minds discuss ideas. Yeah. So let's just borrow from that popular saying from the get-go and speak about this Beyond Vision 2030 national conversation that was kick-started yesterday at KICC, and perhaps how best to go about it, because policy at the end of the day must support strategy, and the legislative arm of government, as I mentioned, will play a key role in terms of embedding the vision within the law. So we've heard from President William Ruto yesterday, various government leaders, including political leaders, thought leaders as well. And the plan is to create a blueprint of sort that will safeguard the nation's future generation, because government, in terms of institutional state and its core public offices, possesses perpetual succession. So in terms of the obligations of government, that remains unbroken. So international economic consultant yesterday, Professor Hiroyuki Hino, gave a detailed presentation on Kenya's journey to Singapore. And I'd like us to begin there, because it can't happen without curbing corruption on all levels of governance. Private and public sector must equally invest in human capital. Debt control is equally a key factor in order to accelerate economic growth. This is what Professor Hino mentioned on achieving the Singapore dream just yesterday. Listen in.
Reaching Singapore's level of development in the next 30 to 40 years will be difficult. Singapore's level of income per person last year exceeded $80,000. This in Kenya, the income was just over $2,000. Huge difference. That is a very tall order. Reaching Singapore's current income level requires another 5 percentage point income growth every year. That's hard. Economic growth and large investment projects are important. However, ultimately, a government is judged by how well it improves the economic and social well-being of every citizen. Inequality in Kenya is high. Kenya is an unequal economy. The poorest 20% of Kenyans receive only 5% of national income, whereas the richest 20% receive 1/2. So Kenya must accelerate economic growth first. it should tighten fiscal policy, increase investment in infrastructure, on essential services, and bring public debt under control. Increase government support to people in need of help. In Singapore, the government transfers about $7,300 per person per year. In Kenya, guess how much? $220.
Okay, inequality is a major challenge in Kenya's economy. But even as we get the ball rolling, allow me to appreciate the presence of John Kagushia, the Member of Parliament for Mukurweini constituency. Karibu sana, mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much.
Last time we saw you, you were going through an ordeal. I hope that's behind you right now.
Well, I'm not very sure. Actually, as you can see, I came early with this gentleman, but I had to scan around the compound to see if there are Subarus around.
Well, we have comfortable premises here, just in case you need to burn the midnight oil. You never know, but karibu sana.
You know?
Yeah,
Thank
asante, asante. I'd like to begin with you, Senator. A lot has been said on this Singapore dream. Some say it's a reality, others say it's all vanity. But with the benefit of hindsight, I'd like us to begin with Vision 2030. There were 3 pillars: political, economic, social. How best do we do an appraisal in terms of how far we've achieved even before we start rolling ahead? Because yesterday they mentioned we've achieved roughly 66% of what was detailed in Vision 2030.
So I would like to start by saying, Sam, that Jesse, sorry. Kenyans listening to me, many of you go to church, and the Word of God tells us, without a vision, my people perish. So we need to have a vision of where we are going for the country to know and to be focused on what needs to be achieved. And you know, there are many things I have liked about what the president has done in the last 4 years or so, but this is a very big milestone for me because it has focused our people around the discussions on where we need to go as a nation. It has helped us to pause down and think, what is Kenya? Where did our forefathers find it? Where are we going with it? Our first president said, let us fight poverty, kutokujua kusoma, and so on. The second president said, peace, love, and unity. Those were visions, but they were not written down. Yeah. The third president then put pen and paper, vision into paper. And he got some experts who then said, in 2030, we want to see our roads done better. We want to see our ports dredged deeper so that we can do better international trade. We want to see LAPSET working. We want to see SGR connecting. We want to see our incomes increasing. We want to see education capacity in 2030. As you have said, we have done like 66%. This vision is coming to an end. Now, the current president has the duty to refocus the nation for the next few years ahead. Now, what the president is doing, people are confusing it with politics. But you see, in Kenya, the head of state and the head of government are combined in one office. So sometimes when you're doing head of state duties, people still think you're doing government duties. But in fact, in this particular stage of visioning the country, it is not a government strictly. It is going to outlive this administration. It's going to outlive this government. There will be other leaders who will come. And in all his speeches, he never talked about the question of looking for votes. He was trying to focus people on where we need to go and differentiating it from what we had during the time of Kibaki. And I served President Kibaki at that time for 10 years. And in those years, when this vision was coming up,
Okay.
it was delivered from experts to the people, and there was no public participation per se. But in this one, what I like about it is Professor Hino, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, and the other team are doing something, but then it's going to be subjected to national conversation, so that we can then refine it. What are the people of Tana River thinking, about this? What is it that we need now, and how are we going to be in 60 years? Where do we want to be?
Okay.
So that whatever the professors are saying, can we localize it and see if it is doable? Now, in China, you have something similar. China has 15-year, they have 3 levels of visioning. There is a 15-year, which is a long-term project, and then there is the 5-year plans. These 5-year plans fit into the 15-year plans.
All right.
But then there is also the 3rd level, where you have annual plans and sectoral plans that feed into the 2nd level of 5-year.
Okay.
And then the 5-year feeding into the 1st level of 15-year. So for them, they are so strict and so serious that what you're seeing today had happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was visioned and planned. And then every 5 years, people are pushing to see, where are we? So what Xi Jinping is doing now, the current president, it was started some time ago. He's pushing. And then in 2026 March, what they did, apart from creating their 15-year vision, they also passed the National Development Planning Law. National Development Planning Law, which means even Xi Jinping, when he goes out, the new leader comes in, there is a framework, a legal structure where the state is bigger than the leadership. So somebody doesn't come and start saying, no, we don't need this, we don't need this. And yet the whole country has already been mobilized towards that. So for me, I think we are in a good space.
Okay.
And we need to put in our effort. I think what President Kibaki did, they pushed to where it is. Now we need also to push our chance, and whoever comes next, they push their chance, so that this nation can reach where Professor Hino is talking about, that our incomes will be something similar to what Singapore is having every year.
Do you think there's a necessity in fast completing Vision 2030, even as we talk about the future? Because planning is important, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but leaving it without doing a complete audit, why haven't we completed it, the rights, the wrongs?
So if you ask me,
okay.
And that's a very good question. I'm thinking, if I'm expanding my business and trying to say, now we are going to go into East Africa in the supply chain, and we are going to supply my goods across East Africa, I need to look at what we have done in Kenya, and you are quite right on that. But this is the reason why they were taking stock and say, so far we have done 66%. But we shouldn't stop at that and say that we need to finish this. No, because this is going to start in 3 years.
Yeah.
This is going to kick off in 3 years. So the preparatory work does not mean that we are not going to do the remaining 36%.
All right.
That should continue.
Okay.
Lapset roads should continue. Dredging the port to make it deeper, it should continue. Opening new ports should continue. Creating the infrastructure, extending the SGR, extending our road network to Kampala, in Busia there.
All right,
it should
all right.
continue
Okay.
as we plan for the next leap.
Fair enough. Ngogoyo, as you come in, is this Singapore dream a mirage? Is it reality? But equally, the elephant in the room is corruption in all its forms, included budgeted corruption, you name it. How can we generally win this fight against graft without condoning or wrongfully condemning?
Rogers, about the Singapore Vision 2060, beyond 2030.
Yeah.
And you know William Ruto is good at phrasing. he would phrase one thing to mean the same thing, while the results are not different from the individual and the person that you know. Allow me to say that, first of all, Vision 2060 is a mirage.
Why is that?
Number one, wrong timing. Vision 2030, which was spearheaded by the government of President Kibaki, which I was involved in as a young person in Kenya Polytechnic, it took only 2 years. 2 years to put together, because one, Ministry of Planning, as we talk today, they have forecasted where the country is going. It is nothing new that they are going to come up with. Remember, national government has representation across every sub-location in the country. Ministry of Planning has a director in every sub-county, somebody called the District Planning and Development Officer. These are offices that exist. So when you come to Ngong sub-county, for instance, where I come from, there's somebody there who does planning for national government. Likewise, county government have their own planning department. So there's nothing new that any government is going to do. First of all, I'm very offended by the fact that it is alleged today they spend about 100 million for a function in KICC to launch that we are beginning Vision 2060. Already corruption. Why do you want to spend money to tell Kenyans? You would have gone on TV today, on media, all media, local and even social media, and explain to Kenyans what you have to explain. Now, what Hino said, is it worth 100 million? No. Transporting people, spending public resources on non-issues, already wrong start. Actually, if it was in a marathon, William Ruto would have been disqualified.
How was Vision 2030 launched?
Allow me to tell you that they only launched the booklet when it was complete.
Okay.
I was in the youth council then, local youth council in my area. We were invited. Mungatana was there. I saw him. He was then an assistant minister. Allow me to tell you that President Kibaki then, because they had merged together with Raila Odinga, the two of them came there. About 6 people spoke only, representing different regions of the country.
Okay.
And the person who represented, for instance, us, the youth then, was a lady from Luo Nyanza. And she explained the input that they have and where they think the country should go. And Kibaki, in his own words, said, this vision is not about those who are present here. It's about the young lady and people who are young, that they will meet their future. And what are the benefits of Vision 2030? We have the expressway courtesy of Vision 2030. We have the LAPSET courtesy of Vision 2030.
All right.
And for your information, all those projects, much as they were initiated by President Mwai Kibaki, they were implemented by President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. We have also Mombasa Road, not Mombasa Road, Thika Super Highway, Raila Odinga Road, which is Mbagathi Way. We have the SGR. These are part of the achievements of what was called Vision 2030. It is Vision 2030 that said, let us have an airport that is beyond what we have today. And the Greenfield, they already broke ground.
All right.
But it did not go on. It has its challenges, yes, but you can point out a number of issues. Now, why do you want to do Vision 2060 4 years before the conclusion of Vision 2030? Why do you want to do that? Number two, already there are people employed by government to think ahead what the country needs. All you need to do is to collect those views, put them together, but at the right time. William Ruto is a suspect in 2027. Why is he in a hurry to do this? And by the way,
He's a
I
candidate,
believe
not a sus. Okay.
he's a suspect because we suspect that he doesn't mean well for the country. Number two, allow me to tell you that allow me to tell you that when you're planning, remember you're planning for the country, not for Kenya Kwanza, not for William Ruto. You're planning for the country. You need views across board. A lot of us, much as we do not agree on a number of things in this country, on principle, there are things we agree. We all need a peaceful country. We need a growing economy. There are a number of decisions we've taken. We've encouraged our supporters to desist from demonstrations during certain periods.
Okay.
Because we believe that when a country is peaceful, we can all thrive. So there is nothing that William Ruto is doing for this country. Vision 2060 is a mirage. William Ruto is not the person that can take Kenya to Vision 2060.
So
He's kind of thinking.
Okay.
He's kind of thinking. And you know which vision is this? When he's saying shoot young people on the foot. Which vision does he have for the country when he cannot call out corrupt ministers in his government? Which Vision 2060? When you close down Tata Chemicals in Magadi, when you know the livelihood of people in Magadi, where we come from, survives by Magadi soda company. When you close down, which Vision 2060 are you talking about? When you have a minister, CS for Interior, who wakes up one morning and says, when you see a young person coming to a police station, shoot them. Which Vision 2060 are you talking about? Allow me to submit that even if we have to have Vision 2060, it cannot be done by the current regime. It must be done by people who mean well, and Kenyans are able to identify where they want to go. You know leadership, you know the vision, you can take people where the vision is, and you can take people through it.
All right. So I guess as DCP, you won't be involved in this national conversation?
We are ready for a conversation of when William Ruto wants to end abduction. We are ready for a conversation if William Ruto will stop his government from killing young people. We are ready for a conversation that William Ruto will not rig the next elections. We are ready for such conversations. Because you see, if we do not deal with those issues, which vision is going to be there? When you arbitrarily arrest Kagushia, we cannot agree with such kind of things.
Let's bring in Kasim Tandaza, because at the end of the day, as much as there's politics on the sidelines, we'll need to ring fence whatever will be agreed upon after this whole national conversation. When Parliament pulls its weight, we'll definitely need a sort of law to avoid political interference in successive administrations. What's your outlook of the nitty-gritties in order to make this dream a reality?
Thank you, Jesse. Let me start by saying my colleague, who is actually my member of parliament in Kajiado, totally misses the idea of a vision. Actually, a vision is something bigger than what he was concluding with. That arresting Kagushia, an election, shooting, abductions, that cannot be in any vision. Even for a dictatorial regime, they cannot have that as a vision. So a vision is something bigger. It could be 2030, it could be 2060, it could be 2090. You can even decide in 100 years where you want this country to be. And for sure, when you are discussing about a vision, it's not about you. That's where he's also getting it wrong. A vision is not about an individual. It's about the whole organization. For this case, it's about the country, where I belong and where he belongs. Okay. So how he narrows down a whole vision to an individual, he totally gets it wrong. A vision from where I start and where it should be is where it started yesterday. It should have even started much earlier, because for a vision, you don't wait until it ends, and then now you start. It's like now saying, why talk about elections now when they are 2027? And that's what he was talking about rigging elections. 1 year to we will think about these things because we know they are going to come and we have to manage them. So there are three things I would want to start with here, Jesse. One, why are we not able to achieve our vision 2030 100%? It started from sessional paper number 10 of 1965, where it's clearly spelled that monies will be put on areas with high income. And high income that time meant central Kenya, because that is where coffee was, that was where tea was. They never thought of some other economic activities in coast where we have the ocean, the blue economy, which the current government now has brought into fruition. Okay. There is a huge potential within the blue economy, but for 60 years plus, nobody thought about that one as an economic activity. That's where we got it wrong. So when it comes to the three pillars of the Vision 2030, economic pillar, it will not have succeeded 100% because all along, it was focusing on one area. And if we are to go the Singapore dream, there is no part of Singapore, and I believe some of us have been there, where you are saying this is rural, this is marginalized the way we have it in Kenya. There is no transport here, there is no electricity here, which was deliberate from the initial founders of this country.
Okay.
It is only this government that is trying to bring that Singapore dream that every part of Kenya now should get equal opportunities and get equal development. This vision 2060, what makes it stand alone, contrary to Vision 2030, are two things. One, it's going to be people-driven. And I believe my colleague knows that we're having the 2010 Constitution, where for anything to go through this country, either as a policy, as a law, it has to go through public participation. And it's very clear in the pillars of the Vision 2030 that it will be people-driven. It's not about an individual.
Okay.
It's not about a professor. It's not about a planner. It's not about, well, he referred to something, district officers, which we no longer have. So I think he's having problem with between differentiating the new constitution and the old constitution. So this one will be people-driven. That means someone in Lunga Lunga, just as someone in Turkana, just as someone in Kajiado, will have an input in this one. And that's the way the Constitution wanted. We drafted the Constitution, passed it overwhelmingly, because we felt when it comes to those experts, the experts normally come from one area because of the advantages they've ever had. It will be very difficult for somebody in Mount Kenya, where there is no ocean, to think about whether the treasures under the seabed of the Indian Ocean. And that's why this Vision 2060 stands alone. Two, Jesse, to conclude, there is also something which is very important. You remember, while we would have achieved 66%, even more, or put it probably 80, 90%, from 2022, when this government came into existence, when President William Ruto came in, we had the big problem of debt for this country. And as Professor Hino says, you cannot go the Singapore dream with heavy debt. You need public-private partnership. You need serious investment. You need economic policies which are long-term. You cannot do all that with the debt, the kind of debt that you inherited. And this one, in this Vision 2060, it is one of the key pillars, key focuses, to see that we move from borrowing, external borrowing, to our own, using our own long-term savings, public partnerships, and investment. But overall, what is very important for me is that this one will encompass everybody. It's not about an individual, it's not about an expert. While they can guide us, but everybody will have an opportunity to say, this is the way I want it. There's nothing politics in it, because as it was His Excellency, the President, put it clearly, it is going to be anchored in law. When it comes to Parliament, Ngongoyo will be there, I'll be there. If it comes at a time when I'll not be there, but certainly there will be a member of Parliament from Kajiado North, there will be a member of Parliament from Matuga, there will be a member of Parliament from the FAR, Lodwar area and whatever. They are going to debate in this, unlike the previous vision, which was just drafted by experts. Why one would want a vision drafted by an expert in this era, I think I read a lot of mischief in that one.
Well, I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, this issue of debt cannot just be pinged on the previous administration, because what was inherited vis-a-vis what is actually there right now, well, we've seen substantial borrowing still by the current administration, even as they think outside the box in terms of PPPs and whatnot. Kagushia, talk to us about this particular dream from where you sit. Are we putting the foundations in place? Because if we get it wrong at the word go, we might never make this dream a reality. Your take on Beyond Vision 2030?
Well, it's a dream. That's what it is. I think William Ruto has slept and dreamt, and he has dreamt many times. Unfortunately, his dreams don't come true. You know, when I look at what William Ruto is taking us through now, I cannot help but remember one day when we were seated somewhere in Nyeri County, where we were having a meeting with William Ruto in 2021, 2022, and we were discussing what we were calling the economic charters, which were done from county to county.
I remember here.
Yeah, that was a precursor to the general election. This guy has a way of lifting your spirits, lifting your hopes, bringing the big picture, using huge words, economic terminologies, words like prosperity. I mean, William Ruto will mention prosperity in almost every other sentence he mentions. And it's interesting that he has actually managed to convince some of my friends like Mheshimiwa Tandaza here that he was marginalized. Yet, the terminology blue economy has not come with William Ruto. It's actually in the Vision 2030, which I'm surprised honorable member here doesn't seem to have appreciated. And if you don't appreciate what was actually in the Vision 2030, my brother, it might be very difficult to comprehend what will be coming in whatever vision you're thinking about. Because the issues of the blue economy, the issues of resources, minerals, issues of farming like sugar farming, all that which is practiced in his constituency, all these things were actually things that were in the last Vision 2030. But William Ruto doesn't have a good history, by the way, on fulfilling his promises. And when you have to sit with him and you're discussing about a vision, you have to be very careful. I normally say, from my experience with President William Ruto now, if he tells you that we are in danger, let us escape and this is the door, my friend, don't rush to that door. Start looking around, either for the window or for another door outside or behind you. Because if you follow that door that he's telling you, you will surely be lost. How can William Ruto talk about Vision 2060 without following on the footsteps of Mwai Kibaki in terms of ensuring that even the Vision 2030 is implementable and it is implemented? I want you to remember, because I worked for government then. Yeah. We used to have what we call the performance contracting. That was done every year. And when performance contracting was done in every ministry, every department, every civil servant, I mean, would take their time and would be very serious about it, because it was no joke. We used to have every civil servant having what we call the KPIs, the key performance indicators, that were all indicated in their performance contracting. Every person signed a key performance, their KPIs to support their performance contracting for every year, and they were assessed very seriously. And every staff who did not meet their KPIs were receiving memos and letters. And that meant that every civil servant was busy working in the office. That
is in the case currently?
That is not the case today. What we see today, for example, is when the president has to travel to launch, and you know he does launch too many things which never get completed, every person from the office is expected to go alongside the president. You remember when Mwai Kibaki was the president and he was implementing Vision 2030, if he was out there, he did not expect to see busybodies around him, clapping and mobilizing people. No, he asked you as a minister, what are you doing here? Today, what we are seeing is the president has gone out of his way to overpromise and do a lot of roadside declarations and do a lot of small, minute things. Like now, the other day, last week, I think you saw him launching the issue of the ambulance, something that was supposed to be launched by the chair of SHA is being launched by the president. And when he's going to launch that, I can tell you, no work will be done that week because everyone is preparing for the president. And that means that then we defocus from the KPIs that we have. Now, how can we talk about a vision? And then, by the way, I have no problem with the kind of ground that has been laid by Honorable Senator Mugatana on why we need a vision and how a vision helps. The Bible says if you don't have a vision, then you're dead. I mean, it's okay. It's okay to have a vision. And by the way, I don't think that is in contestation whatsoever. But the problem is here, Rogers. How will you talk of a Vision 2060 when you are busy robbing us from the same vision? Look, you have started SHA. Before it starts, you hive off 104 billion to go and do a system that has to be paid for the next, 15 years. Look, we have had what we call the RMLF. RMLF is a fund that supports that is in the fuel sector.
Yes, yes.
You take that RMLF and you securitize it. That is, you take a loan for the next 20 years. And you're here telling us that you want us to plan. But you have already borrowed from every single fund that we have. We have what you're calling NIF, National Infrastructure Fund. Again, you're borrowing up to 5 trillion Kenya shillings. I mean, 4.5 trillion Kenya shillings, because you are, and then you have to sell government assets again. Government assets that have always supported this country going forward. Now you are selling these government assets. And who are you selling to? You're selling them to yourself. With which money? The money that you have stolen from the system. You talk about what you're calling this, the
not
sovereign.
sure about selling for yourself, perhaps.
No, of course.
Like Vodafone isn't.
I mean, we can give you a lot
Please
of
do.
details,
Yeah, please
like KPC. You see now KPC has been sold to Uganda, and now Uganda is a stakeholder here,
Yes.
and now they have to appoint directors.
Yes.
But you go to Uganda and again find that the person now who is supplying the biggest supplier of oil and fuels in Uganda is none other than the same guys here. Are you getting? So they enter Uganda, then they re-enter into KPC through the back door, and now they have to again.
Okay,
But
okay.
let me bring the issue of the sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah.
Sovereign wealth fund and NIF and sovereign wealth fund are two bills and are two acts that have recently been passed by Parliament that I think Kenyans need to pay more close attention to, because these ones are borrowing or they are stealing from the future of generations that are to come. You see, when you look at the wording in these bills and these acts that have been passed by Parliament recently, which we have rejected ourselves, myself and Honorable Ngogoyo here, these funds have used terminologies like we are safeguarding the interest and the assets for future generations. But it is not true. It is exactly opposite if you look at the way it has been crafted. Because sovereign wealth fund, for example, they say that they're going to put 30% of every mineral that we sell in Kenya to safeguard future generations. But then they say these other 70% is used again to securitize, to borrow. So you are telling us to make a vision 2060, but you have technically committed every available resource and revenue from this country for the next 25 years. You know,
I get what you're saying, yeah.
And Kenyans need to understand this.
Okay.
We have these main sources of government revenue.
Yes, yes.
We have borrowing. I mean, rather, we have taxes.
Taxes, yeah.
And then we, of course, have the issue of investing activities by government. And of course, you know, we have levies that we have from government. Now, you commit the taxes that we collect through borrowing, so that all the taxes that we are collecting now are all going to the lenders with very high interest rates. Now, you come again and commit all the dividends that we have through securitization. Then every levy that we are collecting, you commit it again through securitization. Basically, what that means is that you have closed every single avenue that the government can get resources from. Now, how can you talk about you're creating a vision 2030 or 2060 when in fact, for the next 20 years, you have committed technically all the resources for this nation.
Is across, definitely.
And you're using those resources today in a manner that it is not accountable.
Senator, you get where the Member of Parliament is coming from, but yeah, at times there's a little bit of gaps, even though the government has had to make tough decisions, because they had very little legroom in terms of the economic space. We even heard from Rigiji saying they found empty coffers, and they had to think outside the box, NIF, Sovereign Wealth Fund, but accountability still seems to be a key challenge in this particular administration, not just this one, but previous ones as well. How do we get it right? Because we might have good intentions, but at the end of the day, we need to make the process fair, transparent. Talk to us.
So I've been around this space for, in public life since 2002. That's like About 24 years. So I'm a bit old around here. And I know that when you're pointing a finger like this, there's 3 of them pointing at you and 1 reporting us to God. Who is supposed to hold the executive accountable? Who is supposed to hold the president in particular accountable? It is the setup we have in government is that the president has his cabinet, and those cabinet officers are supposed to be held accountable by committees of the National Assembly. For us in the Senate, as much as we have a hand in whatever, in doing that, because we also question ministers at the national level, our focus is the county governors and their structures. So as senators, we keep bringing these people, we keep asking them questions, and we keep, the ESCC always sits in those meetings so that they have live information of what they should do, so that at no point can someone say the Senate has not exposed the governor of Tana River, the governor of Samburu, the governor of Nairobi, the governor, these people, and thanks to the press always goes out for them. And so the failure there would be the institutions like ODPP failing to prosecute, ESCC failing to investigate and complete files on time, and passing those files to ODPP, ODPP returning those files, or the judiciary giving lenient sentences. You know, it is institutions. But the Senate, honestly, we have done some work. But I don't see that focus on my colleagues, with a lot of respect, in the National Assembly. The National Assembly, the one thing our colleagues will always talk about is CDF. The way they are developing, and actually, even if you quarrel, they do what, they will do rallies, what, they will take very strong, different opinions. But then when it comes to CDF,
they will agree.
They will even hold the national budget at ransom to make sure that this and this is added of the CDF. So they have become like mini executives, because they are actually more interested in the focus of how they execute that 100 and something million, almost 200 million, within the year in their constituencies.
Okay.
And then when you point at what the government is doing, I wish we could also look at the audit reports of our colleagues when they are executing that particular function. But having said that, I wish our members of parliament can bring these ministers and tell them off in very strong words, can bring these cabinet fellows and their PSs and whatever. Because when you say the president isn't doing this, and you finish it at a political rally, at a funeral, at a barrio, at a whatever, then we are failing.
All right.
And we need to honor that we are not doing our work. In fact, we are not. There's a lot that we could have done that we haven't done. So I'm not here to say the president is perfect, he's whatever, but we have structures that are not functioning. And we need to know the 3 fingers are pointing at ourselves. And for me, I look at proceedings in the Congress, in the US. You know, people, when those cabinet secretaries come, they actually sweat. When those heads of institutions, when they come, they actually sweat. And some of them, after they come from a session in the Congress or in the Senate, they are fired. You know, Trump has been known to fire, you know, officials because they went and messed up, or they didn't account properly for what, you know, like the lady who was in charge of the border security. You know, she fumbled and did what in front of all cameras in the nation. And her position was not sustainable because the president was seeing, no, this is not what we are going to keep. So I wanted to say, going forward, that we need to put our feet down. And actually, nobody wants a corrupt executive. Nobody wants corrupt ministers. Nobody wants this, but we are not doing our part. We are not giving that push that it requires. If today you mention President William Ruto has done this and that, or he's failing to do this, UDA officials will all come out. And ODM
Different,
now.
yeah.
If you say Rigiji has done this and that and the other, and what the green guys will also come and say this, but you don't see the numbers in press conferences when you hear a cabinet secretary has failed to do this. And even when you call your colleagues,
Okay, Senator, your point is across.
I really want to emphasize that, beyond the politics, because sometimes people say this, that. Beyond the politics, can we have a look at ourselves? And I hope this will be in this new vision. Can we have a look at ourselves, have internal conversations within ourselves, how we are going to hold the president and his team accountable?
It's quite sad that, ideally Parliament should oversight, but when we hear whispers or rumors that the 13th Parliament has been compromised by the executive, it definitely goes a long way in highlighting how these institutions might be captured in one way or the other. Gogoyo, National Assembly has received a little bit of slack from the senator. Is it from a good place? How do you respond to such when, even in 2024, Kenyans were not too happy with the legislation that was happening on that side, that perhaps they were listening more to the executive than the concerns of the people?
The senator is right to some extent.
Yeah.
The National Assembly, the 13th Parliament, has had a number of issues that have not gone well with the public. We have a lot of praise and worship members. They praise William Ruto and worship William Ruto. And, once you have praise and worship member, you don't expect them to go outside praising and worshiping President William Ruto. Why do I say so? When you have a whole deputy speaker who says, Your Excellency, you instructed us to vote Rigathi Gachagua out, and I did exactly that, Your Excellency, in a public function, then he tells you there's something wrong. When Junet Mohammed, a leader, the minority leader, says that I was in charge of making sure that people vote out or impeach, and my colleague in the Senate was actually the one sorting out the Mungatanas.
Kitu ilitembea.
It's a member saying this in public.
Yeah.
When you have...
Alisema kitu si pesa.
But he said...
But alisema kitu ilitembea.
And of course you can tell these are praise and worship members. So it's unfortunate, but of course amidst all those people, there are people who have stood to say no, even when bills have been approved. We said no to the National Infrastructure Fund. We have said no to the sale of Safaricom.
So how do you overly rate the performance of the 13th Parliament? Because as much as we're quick to call out its weaknesses, I mean, just today we've seen this public participation bill actually processed in the National Assembly.
Of course, there's a lot to be desired because it's below average, of course, below average. I mean, as Kenyans, we could be players, but as Kenyans, how's your parliament performed from a rate of 1 to 10? Of course, they'll tell you low. But allow me to tell you that Vision 2030 had a pillar called the social pillar, which includes something called human rights and respect for human rights. Anchored on Vision, on the Constitution of Kenya 2010, we have something called the Bill of Rights. And by the way, this Bill of Rights were anchored on Vision 2030, and they were enshrined on Constitution of Kenya 2010. Number one, police brutality. That, police can attack a journalist, can attack a Kenyan unarmed, can shoot. That was against Vision 2030. It is also against the Constitution of Kenya 2010. The current administration that wants to spearhead the issue of Vision 2060 is guilty of a number of issues. Number one, Ojwang was killed in a police cell, came in alive, calling his father. And the next thing is that Ojwang went to city mortuary. The same individuals want to be the ones heading or spearheading Vision 2060. Is that possible? No. Number two, when that is just one person.
Yeah.
A number of other people have died in police cells.
And we've documented,
And documented very well. And I thank media houses because they've provided real-time information. The issue of Ojwang was recorded both in Mbagathi Hospital, in the mortuary, and played before the police could
Central
give.
as well.
Allow me also to tell you that when the DCI officers come out to say that Dr. Mutiso, the lady so-and-so, was killed by police officers. And this was said a day before by Rigathi Gachagua, and you want to tell us that we can trust this administration to deliver for us Vision 2060. I honestly feel that there is a trust deficit in the current administration. There is a trust deficit with William Ruto administering Vision 2060 when he himself is not a respecter of human rights. Remember, any vision, and the guy who talked there is called Professor Hino, talked about inequality, mentioned very well by Kasim Tandaza. You cannot treat people in an unjust way and expect them to board a vision that you want them to go somewhere. Not possible. It's not practical. And last but not least, remember that Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, one of the things he did, and I have read his book 3 or 4 times, a book called From Third World to First World. One of the things he did, he brought an end to corruption in his administration. He arrested CSs that were corrupt, and he made sure that they suffered the pain in jail. William Ruto this administration has administered a number of evils. One, capitation has gone into the wrong hands. The Auditor General has marked that one out. 104 billion was spent on a system rather than spending the money on patients and medicine that would have again been gotten in hospitals. Now, when you see all those things, if William Ruto cannot even take to task any of the officers that he has, can he administer Vision 2060? And can he help birth a vision when he himself is a perpetrator? His government, in his own hands, he has given birth to issues that have brought, lowered the dignity of this country.
The point is across. It's definitely concerning.
And allow me to say that on an international level,
briefly,
Kiza Besigye was abducted by the government of Kenya and delivered to a foreign country. Refugee studies. You cannot arrest somebody in a foreign country owing to their allegiance, and we are party to the Convention of 1951.
Okay. Point across. Kasim, it seems a couple of ills in the administration, but we saw broad-based members in Naivasha during our retreat meeting trying to strategize the way forward. And we saw a couple of presentations in terms of the deliverables by this current administration. It's not all bad. There might be good, but at times the ills overshadow the successes. So speak to us about striking a balance, not just highlighting the positives, but equally paying attention to the negatives and making sure they're not repeated time and time again. What happened in Naivasha? What was articulated in terms of the deliverables by this government? Speak to us about that.
Thank you, Jesse. Just 1 minute on what the senator had said. He was so eloquent about the parliament, the parliamentarians, us National Assembly not holding the executive to account, but he deliberately avoided his role in the Senate holding governors into account. Because just as we have resources from the executive, which we are supposed to oversight, they also have a role. These are again taxpayers' money. We also know what goes on in the county governments, but he deliberately avoided that. But for us to have a vision, we need to be holistic. It's not just about the CSS. Can we also look at the governors? Can we also look at the roles of the MCAs going forward? That was one. 2, it saddens me again that when we are discussing about the vision, my colleague goes back to individuals. If this vision is finally drafted and passed, I don't know, in 3-4 years' time, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto might not have more than even 3 years to execute it. But as I had initially stated, this is for the whole country. He might be the president by that time, but there will be now a document to guide him to achieve what this country needs. It's not about an individual. Naivasha. Well, one thing that has happened in this current administration is inclusivity. You know, it's high time. We forgot about talking about Mlima, talking about one section of this country, talking about others being more educated than others. It's high time. And that is what this government has done. We know before we reached at the broad government stage where this country was headed to. We might not have been here if it had taken that direction. Give it to Dr. William Samoei Ruto and the late Mwendazake Raila Amolo Odinga. And that is where we want to go. What is happening currently is that here is the majority of Kenyans saying we want to move forward as Kenyans, and a few people saying, no, we are better than everybody else. It is only about us and us. And when it goes back to the Vision 2030, I think it speaks about this one, the issue of inclusivity, the issue of accountability, which he has been talking about, the issue of corruption. It is also, when you look at the key focus areas of the Vision 2060, it clearly talks about accountability and anti-corruption. This had never been given the seriousness that it has. And if this vision now goes into legislation, it means it will be more anchored and more serious, even when it comes to violation. He talks about the social pillar, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, social justice, human rights is there. But again, we should look at the strides that this government has done in matters of education, in terms of the recruitment of teachers, in terms of the funding model, which basically gets everybody on board. And even when it talks about the social pillar, it also talks about housing. We cannot forget that housing is in the Constitution. It is one of the fundamentals. And no government had given this particular item the seriousness it deserves. Yes, we might not have achieved the way we would have wanted, even from our plan of Kenya Kwanza or UDA government.
Did they say how much has been achieved so far from the plan?
From the plan, when we retreated in Naivasha, we were about 77% or thereabout. Because what were we talking about? We were talking about financial inclusion. Now we have the Hustler Fund and other those funds that have been revamped. We were talking about the manufacturing. Of course, a lot has gone into the food security for the first time. And this is there. Whether you like it or not, we've not imported maize in this government for the longest because of the steps that this government has talked about. The issue of housing, the issue of housing. Of course, you cannot do everything at the same time. Okay. Even you will accept in your house, you cannot buy all what you need at the same time. All right. Yeah. So, but the right steps have been there. What has been the constraint has been the issue of our economy, where we picked it and where it is now. Remember, even when my friend, my colleague Kagusha comes from Mlima, I am sure you are aware that for this particular time, since time immemorial, Kenya is the largest milk producer in Africa. Unfortunately, it comes from your area. We don't sell milk from coast. But this is something that we can talk about. And these are some of the pluses, the positives that this government has been able to achieve.
Kagusha, as you come in, perhaps counter the narrative, because we've heard of the ills in government, but when you hear that strides have been made in agriculture, when you hear that we've boosted our foreign exchange reserves, the shilling against the dollar is stabilized at 129, when they speak of subsidizing consumption and not production, are these positives that, yes, subsidizing production and not consumption. Are these positives that perhaps we should give credit where it's due, or it's a case of overpromising, as was in the plan, and underachieving, as has been mentioned time and time again?
I want to fact check my brother here. He says that when they went to Naivasha, they found that they had achieved 77% of their promises. That's laughable. From a published research by Mzalendo, it shows that Mzalendo Trust,
Yes.
they have published a research recently that shows that out of the 270 promises made by this government, it has only achieved 5%. Of the 270, maybe you need to acquaint yourself with this research so that you can be able to then see where the 77% is coming from.
Yeah.
But the promise and the promise on top of another promise, that one I agree, it could have been more than 77%. If anything, it could have gone for more than 101%. And then the issue of roadside declarations. I also want to help my brother here, Tadada, because, you know, he's my friend, by the way. I have been to his constituency, all the way to Shimba Hills. And you know, when he keeps on praising this government and says that things are different with this government, I don't know whether they have really helped you to make that road. Because, you know, a road was commissioned during the Uhuru's time. I think about 85 kilometers of road. And sincerely, I have raised this road once and again, even for him, and, you know,
Which road is this?
Because it's my brother.
Which road is this?
Yeah, there's a huge road that is crisscrossing the whole of his constituency, which really I hope, by the way, that in the 4 years...
I wish you could mention the road, because currently there is the Kwale Kinango Road, which is on Gweng. It's tarmacked like 10 kilometers. It's on Gweng. That's the major project in my constituency.
Yeah.
So the one you are... It's true that we have roads which are yet to be tarmacked, but to say that there is a whole 85 kilometers which was launched by Uhuru Kenyatta, and I was there in the last parliament. Uhuru Kenyatta never launched any road in my constituency.
Well, I'm
This
using
Maybe I'm mistaking my constituency.
well, I'm using the information we have discussed with him off
No,
this
No, I think we are putting...
Let's stick to what
Yeah.
is here, Kagusha.
That's okay.
Proceed.
Yeah, but
Yes.
what I feel is that there has been a very big problem of issues of promises. Like now, for example, you can see he's talking of, for the last 4 years, he has had his road done for 10 kilometers. And of course, that would be a drop in the ocean, looking at the expansiveness of his constituency. Now, we have a huge challenge. Just looking at the discussion we are having here, we were supposed to be looking more at the Vision 2060 and beyond Vision 2030. But look at the contribution you're having here. It is largely much more about the issues which are more on the politics of 2027. And I can tell you this is just what William Ruto intended. He's not raising the issue of 2060 because he wants to give it any serious thought.
Yeah.
He's not doing this because he wants to raise any serious discussion about the Vision 2030. Vision 2060, so you call it. He's doing this to remove people from the wave of criticism that he's having so far for non-performance. And as a leader, what he's doing is trying to outsmart us. That when you're here discussing about what he has not done, then he introduces a bigger topic about what he wants to do. Same thing he did in 2022. He kept us busy, by the way. We almost fought in a meeting in Nyeri, trying to push our projects into the economic charter of Nyeri County, because we thought it was serious. Yeah, I remember that time Isaac Mwaura is the one who was taking minutes in that meeting. And I remember seeing even with our memoranda from Mukurweni, pushing it through so that it can be included in the economic charter. And we thought it was serious, you know. But this William Ruto guy,
was it actualized, that economic charter?
It is not. It was. I did. It is somewhere. That thing. It need to be removed, unless maybe the one for Kwale is being implemented somewhere. But the economic charters, they were there for every county. I don't know whether the one for Tana and Kajiado are being implemented. But we have a very big problem because we took those
prices
things,
of coffee which gone up.
We took those things seriously. Only to realize that they did not mean anything. They were meant to keep us busy and to keep us hopeful.
So that's how you see vision.
Of course, that's what the president is doing.
It's a smoke screen.
Yeah, just like he did with Singapore. You remember when he was hard pressed on matters of Gen Zs and all that. Then he just rose from nowhere with the issue of Singapore. And of course, he called a professor who has given him a lot of beating with his Singapore dream. He has told him, no, it's not possible. And by the way, the professor appreciates that Kenyans have potential, they're hardworking. All they require is that potential to be synergized and to be harnessed so that they can be able to deliver the promise.
Okay.
But what happens today in Kenya? The person who is leading the country is tapping from the pole. You know, when people are stealing steamer and you go to the meter here, you find that some of them are having wires that are coming from the meters and all that. But this guy is tapping from the transformer itself into his own pocket. All the pipes are being done and redirected to him. And for that reason, you find that it's very difficult to discuss any issue of a vision in this current status. And I want to dare you, all of these things you're seeing here being introduced, there's nothing much more than just introducing issues of changing the Katiba. You will see.
That's the long game.
Yeah, I mean, it will boil down to that. But by the time it's coming to Parliament, you will hear it is now coming in a way that this Vision 2060 is now suggesting or proposing that we now have to change the Katiba. I heard the president say that, for example, that these political and, of course, the social pillars are well handled in the country. He, for example, described the issue of the civil society as working without interference from government. You know, when William Ruto talks, sometimes you wonder whether he's in this country. And sometimes when he's talking, you wonder whether he's talking to us or he's talking to himself. And sometimes you even wonder whether he believes what he says. Just when we are in this country discussing about how the civil society was attacked in the All Saints Cathedral, and that issue is not even resolved. He says that civil society is working without interference. Just when Rose Njeri, who started a platform to audit government budget and finance bill 2025, is still facing charges in the court of law, William Ruto is here telling us that civil society in Kenya is not interfered with. Just when we have not even resolved the issue of the attack on Ken Hitsiar in Kilimani, when they were, preparing for a press conference and they were attacked by goons. Yeah. Just that time, then you talk about the civil society is operating and interfered with. When you have a parallel informal security arrangement which is being pushed by Murkomen and which is being backed by clear goons that can be seen. Even last week we had goons that were putting ropes on in Hurlingham, Awinkothek Road. We had, and again in another 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, we had goons that came to attack people on Thika Road. A parallel system that is working with goons. You saw my arrest in Royal Media Services recently, where I was being arrested by 48 hooded men who are heavily armed and masked. I mean, operating with a parallel security system that is not known, that is not formal. And you're saying that we have achieved 66% of the Vision 2030 and 77% on your promises in 2022.
Okay.
Mr. President William Ruto, please give us a break.
Senator Mungatana,
yes.
The president today was in a passing out parade after he held a political meeting in Eldoret where he claimed that Uhuru failed to address issues, affordable housing, universal health coverage during his presidency, and has now resorted to supporting efforts to remove him from office using quote-unquote cronies. What do you make of the political discourse that's currently ongoing? At times, former presidents find themselves on the receiving end, and when it's coming from a head of state, one would assume there's intel. It's not just an attack blindly for the political sake. Talk to us about.
Well, let me just comment one thing before I say something about the politics that the president was advancing in his speech.
Yes.
Justice Mugure Thande the other day gave a very strong ruling on the interpretation on the dates of when elections should take place. Now, she did her part, and we lawyers we interrogate the ruling, the merits, demerits, whether there's a appealable case and all that, you don't go back and start saying, oh, that judge is this way, she dresses that way, she talks this way, she does this and that, the other. You don't do that because it denies the intellectual engagement. Now, when you're birthing, when the women in my village are looking after a woman who is about to give birth, they take her to the hospital because that is now the arrangement. And they help her through that process. You don't look at that person and start saying, oh, this person, I don't know, their farm is not well taken care of, I don't know what. You start attacking that person instead of looking at the issue of, has the child been born properly? And this is the thing I see, and what makes me so sad about the leadership in DCP, and you can see it being replicated here, that instead of discussing issues, you hear William Ruto, William Ruto, William Ruto this, William Ruto that. It denies the intellectual engagement that is supposed to be there on issues that are before us. And I want to encourage our colleagues, if truly you are planning to have an alternative government, be fair to Kenyans, you know. Be fair to Kenyans. Whenever I see Rigiji holding a mic and not giving any, serious issues, or one other colleague in our Senate talking about chickens and affordable housing, I feel like people are regrettably reducing the whole thing. When you see a person who is looking for a national support, saying tourists should not come to the coast, suspend your investment in Lamu or something, $1 trillion investments, and you're sitting there, and because Ruto is not Kenya. Ruto is not Kenya. And I'm praying that our people would rise above that, even when we are calculating these election results. I'm praying to God that our people will engage in who has the best ideas and who can do this work. Because if we don't get from there, then people will be calculating presidential election, how many Luyas are there, how many Kikuyus are there, how many Pokomos, why Mungatana, you'll never be president because you are a Pokomo, you are very few, why Coast won't, what, this kind of nonsensical approach to issues. It's very regrettable, and it is sad when even upcoming leaders, people who have been elected or those unelected and they are still hoping to come, and they're still retreating back to tribal cocoons. What do we say about some of us? We married from different societies, communities. Me, myself, I'm mixed, my parents are mixed, my children are mixed. And I pray that we will start engaging on issues. Every time I hear Professor Anyang' Nyong'o talking, I want to listen. But there are people, when I see them on TV, I switch off because they know the next thing they're going to say is something that has no value to this country, and yet they have following because of tribal biases.
So
having said that,
even as you move on, when you had this Ruto at force conquered by Rigathi Gachagua, was it based on issues?
I don't even watch him. What does Rigathi say? What does he say? Apart from saying, this guy, this Ruto doesn't, his hair is going, I don't know what, all these nonsense things. I feel very strongly, and I feel very strongly that, let me finish.
Senator, my friend.
You will have your chance. Let me say this, that unless we rise up to that state where, when I went into Parliament, let me just say it, some 24 years ago, when Paul Muite would stand as member for Kabete constituency, I would sit down and want to listen. When the Honorable Wamalwa Kijana takes the mic and he's talking, we were in university when Mwai Kibaki was leader of opposition in Parliament. When he would stand and speak, he would never talk about personalities. But he would look at the budget and say, look, we need to do this, we need to do this. And that was my president. I served him with all my heart.
Okay.
But now we see a very sad situation to describe the opposition. And you have issues in this country. Even for us who are in government, we know there are issues that need to be addressed. But how are they addressing? When you wake up and you talk Ruto that, Ruto that, Ruto that, what value are you adding to this country? And this is an indictment on the kind of opposition. You're letting the people of Kenya down. I think we need to rise up. Look at, for example, how, I mean, the history is there. How it was done, and why when elections came and we changed government, the kind of leadership we got. Anyway, having said that,
briefly,
let me make this comment.
Yeah.
When we served President Kibaki, there were people who ran on a campaign saying, we have 24 charges. We are going to jail President Moi once we take over. When Kibaki won the election, and we were called, he said, look, I have a country to run. We have things that we want to do. I'm not going to spend my time following the past. I'm going to look forward, and we are going to go forward. And this is, to me, this is what Ruto has demonstrated. We had very low import cover. For less than a month. Now we have 6 months clean. Actually, seven, I'm being corrected. 7 months import cover. We had a problem with the dollar. You remember those days that every time the month is coming to an end, we have to struggle to raise about $500 million to purchase fuel into this country. The president thought outside the box and said, no, let's make a deal that will help us, stretch this. And we were able to cover a situation that stabilized the dollar. Okay. I'm the head of delegation for Pan-African Parliament. And I can tell you, every time I'm addressing that house, people have seen Kenya has moved from economy number 8 in World Bank to economy number 6 in Africa. People have seen that Kenya has been rated poorly before by this international rating standard.
Yes.
You know them, the
Moody's.
The Moody's.
Yes.
And now we are being told that this is a destination you can bank on. The average growth rate for Africa now is at 3.8%. We are doing way above that. Let me say that our nation has good people, and we are able to go ahead, both in opposition, by the way, and in government.
Okay.
My prayer is that these good people will focus on pushing this nation ahead. Talking about personalities is not going to help us. Let me tell you, we will finish, Ruto is finishing in 2032, somebody else will come. We need to build a nation. And please, we need to build this nation.
Fair enough.
I feel so bad when I see the level of debates, the level of thinking, critical, mass is going away. I mean, I think we need to say that the good people must come. And this election in 2027, I hope more will populate the National Assembly, more will populate the Senate, and more will populate the governors, and hopefully more will populate the cabinet to help the president achieve what needs to be done.
Let's hear from the opposition as we get the final comments, because the quality of the opposition has been put into sharp focus. Gogoyo.
First of all, let it be known that we came in not as opposition. We are elected on UDA tickets, but we have since changed our positions. And what was supposed to be opposition, actually ODM was supposed to check on government, but they're in bed with William Ruto, they're in bed with UDA, they cannot criticize government. I and Mungatana are UDA members of parliament. But in the next election, I will not be a UDA member of parliament. I'm actually right now a DCP member. Allow me to tell you that when you talk of the quality of the position, it is a dream of some people to be in the position. it is not our dream to be in the position. We worked hard to be in government, but William Ruto displaced us. We are working hard to be the next government. And Mungatana, it's only that I didn't have time. I would have told you strategic plans that we have. And things that we have said even on media, on education, on police, we have given an alternative on how we can run government. But allow me to tell you that in all these things, John C. Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. The quality of the leader that you have informs many things that will happen. Kibaki became a leader in 2002. The transformation between 2003 and 2001 was huge because of leadership and the decisions that they made. A lot of things that are happening in government today is because the president is known to be a one-man show. And it is very difficult, even for CSS who are supposed to advise the president. I think when they want to advise, he goes ahead and advises the CSS. That is the problem that we have. We must have leadership that is participatory.
And we had that from Professor Ndongo.
Himself, he said,
yes,
he said it. So let me tell you, you cannot run the country as an individual. Even when he says about the government and opposition, it is a role that you have, that you criticize with an intention of making laws. We've tried to make amendments to different legislations in the country because laws are meant for posterity, a good law.
So you've tried providing alternatives?
Yeah, we've given.
Okay.
When you look at the amendments, for instance, we provided in the Finance Act. When you look the amendments we tried to provide in the Finance Bill, in the National Infrastructure Fund, we wanted to make it better so that it is not something that anybody can manipulate. And by the way, they say when you're making a law, make it so that even if it was the worst enemy that had it, they would not use it against yourself.
Okay. Yes, yes.
So we are not criticizing William Ruto because we want to criticize him. It's because the things he does, they are an experiential threat to this country. When you have a CS who outrightly says that he can shoot young people when you see them in a police station, that should worry everybody. Mungatana has young children. Mungatana leads young children in his constituency. When a president says shoot young people in the foot, it should worry Kasim Tandaza. He has young people in his constituency. If they are shot in the foot, it is a disadvantage to him. And as I conclude, let me say, CS Murkomen has said that they will sack police officers who are saying one term.
He said that?
Yes, police officers.
On record, yeah?
Yes. I want to say this, that the CS, first of all, police officers, they vote. Police officers, they are entitled to an opinion. They might not be like us. We are players in the game. We are politicians. But one thing, unless you want the whole police, because 95% of police officers, they are dissatisfied with the insurance services. They are dissatisfied with the invocation to their pay slips. They are not happy on how their country is being led, and they are not happy the way they have been merged with goons, and they are being put together to implement government agendas within the city. Police has been infused with goonism, so that you have goons and you cannot separate between police and goons. The police are not happy. They were trained to be professionals. They are trained to protect life and property.
Yes.
And let me tell you, the real police officers, they do not like to hurt civilians, because the part of the training is that they should protect and not hurt civilians. In my very honest opinion, William Ruto should stop the joke of Vision 2060. Let him focus on the present. Let him deliver on what he can. And Mungatana, William Ruto will not go in 2032. He will have an election. His first contract with Kenyans is until 2027. If he's re-elected, no problem.
Which he will win.
But for your information, William Ruto will be a one-term president, and we love her.
Okay, Kasim. Fanya vitu ziwe sawa. Your final comments as you react to what's been said.
Two things I would want to comment that for this government and its plan, it has achieved. You know, there is what you would want to be done as an individual, but there is what is to be done good for the country. We have to appreciate that when it comes to, and I would want to speak to the Sovereign Wealth Fund, From Kwale County, we were the only county since independence that we've had a major mining activity under best tenure. Without any law, there is no trace of that money at all. And remember, it was not done during Dr. William Ruto's time. Those guys seized the operations. They did it during Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's 10 years.
When they seized operations.
Yeah, they seized the operation in that. But there's no trace. So why somebody can sit here and say that law is bad? I think that person actually has never had a mining activity or a serious resource in their areas. Otherwise, for me, that is the best that it can happen. We are talking of Mrima now with the rare earths. I would want that investment to outlive me as an individual. So many generations to come should know that we used to have best.
Who does it belong to? The Mrima?
It belongs to to Kenyans, and that's why I'm saying. Mrima is in Kenya, for your information. It's not.
Who does it belong to? Who owns the title deed?
Kagusha, give him some time. Give him some leg room.
I don't have to educate you that even if you own this title and there happens to be minerals beneath, then the ownership changes, isn't it? You own this land up to a certain depth. Beyond that, it is it's a government resource. I think I don't have to educate you that one, that now an individual will say, I own those rare earths as an individual. It's not about an individual. And I think that's where we are losing this discussion. So the Sovereign Wealth Fund is the best that can happen for our natural resources in this country. I would also want to come to where you had started to ask Dr. Mungatana about Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Where he got it wrong is where the law is very clear that once you hand over power, you retire as a president. And we remember we've had Mwai Kibaki. Before then we had Moi. Moi handed over to Mwai Kibaki, kept quiet, let Mwai Kibaki run the country. That one is the fact. When Kibaki...
He didn't keep quiet. He was involved in the referendum.
He was never the chairman of KANU. You know, it stipulates that once you hand over, is it within 6 months, Mungatano, you are a professional lawyer?
Yes.
You have to seize. Yeah. So, Moi did that. He never continued being the chairman of KANU. Kibaki had his party. When he also handed over, he never continued being the chairman of his party. But Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, where he places himself in a very awkward position is when he has retired, having served his 2 terms constitutionally, an election held, and the IEBC declares this is the legitimate winner. People go to court and it's upheld, but he still insists against the law of this country. And my colleagues here think that it should continue.
It's not against the law. The political...
Are you saying that...
Put that into perspective. The current Political Parties Act allows him to be the party leader, but it bars a retired president from continuing with active politics, but from being a party leader.
But that's what Uhuru is doing. You know,
I'll have to check it up.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, even when you check it up,
yes,
he has put it correctly that it bars him from continuing with political activity. Uhuru is very active on the political front. You see, he chairs his Azimio coalition. He gives direction. Are you afraid of him? It's against the law. I'm not afraid of him. Of course, he was against Dr. William Samoei Ruto and he won. Now that he's not even the president,
yes.
Why should they be worried of somebody who is even no longer holding any power? But you see, this idea of breaking the law blatantly, and a section of Kenyans thinking that that is a good thing to do, it will also come to haunt this country. As you say, laws should be obeyed by everybody.
Okay.
What tunasema sheria ni msumeno, isn't it? But for this case, that's where Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is actually getting it wrong. It's high time you advised him that as long as he continues that way, then he'll put himself on the crossfire.
Okay.
Finally, if my colleagues here, especially Kagusha from Mlima, does not
which Mulima? Mulima or Murima with the rare earth?
The other one is in Mlima. I said in Mlima. Okay. If you cannot appreciate that for this period, the prices of coffee, the farmer is earning more than what he used to earn. We don't grow coffee ourselves. If you can't appreciate that the milk farmer in your area is earning more than what he used to earn, then I think you are also not living in this country. And these are facts. You can Google, you can check the prices 2022 before Ruto came in, of coffee, of tea, of milk, the dual carriageway being done in your area through the securitization of the fuel levy, the money you are talking about, which goes to your area. You know, these are some of the things that you should also appreciate and say, hey, despite that we are having challenges, there are good things that have happened in this region.
Fair enough. Kagusha, final say.
Yeah, so first, Uhuru Kenyatta is not bad to be actively involved in politics by the law. You need to know that. Then the other issue is that the issue of the coffee and how it has gained. You need to ask me to give you the formula we have used. And by the way, there's something we did when we had an active coffee caucus when Rigathi Gachagua was the deputy president. We pressed some very important buttons, including passing some of the regulations and laws in parliament. That one I'll appraise you after this. The dual carriage that you mentioned in Nyeri from Keno is not a securitization project. There's a World Bank project. Uhuru Kenyatta left it done 85%. William Ruto is doing fairly well. He's struggling doing the 15% within 4 years. He's trying 15%, 4 years. And yeah, it's true. It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Those are not facts. They are political facts.
Then I also want to maybe just respond to my friend Mugatana here. The Rigiji speech that you say is not an intellectual speech. He speaks and you switch off the TV, you are unhappy, you are discouraged, you frown on whatever he says. That Rigiji speech was broadcasted by all the mainstream media houses in Kenya. And every Kenyan stopped what they were doing, except Senator Mugatana, to watch it.
Even William Ruto.
Even William Ruto
many
himself.
of us don't
No,
listen.
I will tell you. I will tell you why I'm saying this, Bona Senator.
As you finalize.
When he was... You are telling me to finalize before
As
I
we
begin.
finalize.
Before I begin.
Time.
You know, Bona Senator Mugatana, why I will tell you that everyone was watching it. No sooner had Rigathi Gachagua finished his speech than Ishungwa and a host, an avalanche of other members of parliament called press to respond to the issues that Rigathi Gachagua had raised in his 1.5 hour speech. How were they responding without listening? We are aware that they were told to stop everything else they were doing, switch on their TVs in their offices, listen to what Rigathi was saying so that they could respond. And that is why even if we went even to Felix Kosgei's office, you'd have been surprised. You could have heard a pin drop. He was listening. He was taking notes
Were you
to
there?
give instructions.
Were you-
No, we get intelligence. We get intelligence. We get real intelligence. In fact, when Rigathi was starting his speech, he said, I am aware, I am informed that all the senior government officials, all the political class, they have been informed or they have been instructed to stop whatever they are doing to listen to this speech. And when we saw them now respond, like 30 minutes later, we knew they had listened. The only thing they did not do was to take time to understand and to absorb what he was saying. Okay. So they rushed into it, and instead of responding to the issues he was raising one by one, they just insulted him. And that was it. And they are just as upset with him, just like my brother Mugatana is here. And it's understandable, by the way. We don't discuss Ruto's personality. For example, we have not discussed about Ruto's marriage of the daughter in Narok. We are not discussing that. We are not discussing Ruto's weight. We are not discussing Ruto's health. We are not discussing his happiness and his unhappiness. We are discussing policies by William Ruto. I know that doesn't make my brother, Senator, very happy or amused. And he thinks that should not be discussed.
Okay.
But you have raised very important things here that you're saying we have a better import cover. You know, Kenyans don't understand that import cover thing. What Kenyans understand is that in Gikomba now, there's a list that has been given that has increased the import duty on their items that they bring in Kenya. When you look at the consolidated importers, you look at the kind of increment that has been done. Like one of them was telling me the one container, 40-feet container, has had an increment from 1.5 million to 4 million. Are you getting that? That list, I have it here. I've been sent by several people from Gikomba and from Nyamakima. It's here. I have it here. Showing stoves in CKD proposed 2 million. There's a list that came out, like I think about a month ago. Used auto parts now proposed 2 million. And they're now coming from 800,000 to 1 million, now to 2 million. Furniture, 2 million. This is a container, the much that you have to pay. The person who is dealing with the business in Kenya don't understand the import cover thing. They understand that the RDL, that the Railway Development Levy, has been increased from 1.5% that was there before to 2%. Are you getting? You increase the RDL, and then, by the way, it has also been securitized. I hope you know that. Yeah. It's being securitized. You're borrowing using it. Then you are increasing again the import duty. Are you getting? Then you have increased again the fuel for bringing these things back to the mainland.
Yes.
So Kenyans don't understand what you are calling you called it a stabilization fund, fuel stabilization fund. You are saying that now you are able to stabilize, and what they understand.
As we finalize.
What they understand.
Yes.
And no, not the fuel stabilization, the issue of the dollar stabilization that now has helped us with the issue of dollar. That's okay. We understand that. But again, Kenyans are looking at the fuel prices.
Okay.
They have gone from 140 to 230 to 222. In this period of time. They have gone from 158, that is petrol, to 214. That is what Kenyans are understanding.
Perhaps you're highlighting the macro and the micro level.
I'm talking about, you see, we can talk that Kizungu Mingi, the one who will normally talk on the floor. He will talk about prosperity, he will talk about the next generation.
Okay, in 30 seconds, Kagushia.
What Kenyans are saying is that we cannot be talking about tomorrow if you are robbing us today. We need you to handle our issues today, and we need you to be accountable today before you can talk about tomorrow.
Fair enough.
So when you talk about a vision, I don't know, vision about some of those things we are saying, go and dream in your bed. But when you are talking about Kenya as a country, we want you to take care of our issues today, not tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough. Mungatana, you had an issue in 30 seconds. Our time is up.
You can be stealing from Kenyans today when you promise them. Are you getting?
Point is across. So again, that you cannot, as a leader, you cannot, some of these statements, and I feel sad. I think, I don't know what is happening in this country, because you see, if I'm a father in the house, and I know that now we have been asked to take a pay cut, so we cannot we can't have meat every day. It is me to explain to the children that we are not going to be having this. We will have this instead. That's leadership. But then when you say this is not important, import cover is not important.
And you're stealing from
How can you?
If you're coming home drunk,
okay, you know
what? You have no meat, you have no food.
Okay.
How will you be respected by these children?
I just need 30 seconds for Mheshimiwa Kagusha here. Me and him sit in the National Assembly. There are no taxes which were raised. You cannot just come here and say, listen. You cannot just come here and say,
my brother,
a container
even the finance bill.
Depends with the value of the goods. A container depends on what is having inside there.
Okay, gentlemen.
You cannot just say, he was among the members who never came to defend finance bill in the last voting session. You never came to represent your people. That's why you don't know whether taxes were raised. Taxes were raised.
I was there, but you cannot come and say,
you were not present.
All right, let's not affect the quality of the output. We've done so well, but it seems we're finishing by
depends with the value.
That's how we wrap up tonight's edition of KTN Prime. Dr. Danson Mungatana, asante sana for your input. It's always a pleasure, Senator. Onesmus Ngogoyo, asante for coming through. We appreciate. Kasim Tandaza, hope we'll have you more often. Equally, John Kagushia, thanks for making time. That's how we wrap up tonight's edition of KTN Prime. Hope you had value for your time back at home. That's the lay of the land. I'm Jesse Rogers. Have yourself a good night. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.